All right, 6 o'clock, and it's time for the Georgetown Council, and meeting is now going to start and call to order. And at this time, we would like everyone to stand. And if we can have a moment of silence. Thank you. We'll ask Councilman Greg Hampton to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
The United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. At this time, we'll ask the clerk to roll call.
Mr. Allen? Mrs. Wilkins Brent?
Here.
Mrs. Butcher Conway?
Here.
Mrs. Hambrick?
Here.
Mr. Hampton?
Here.
Mr. Showalter? Here. Mr. Stone?
Here.
Mrs. Tuckett?
Here.
In your pack, you should have the minutes from last meeting. May I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion.
Second.
Motion is made and properly second. Other questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say likewise. Also, you should have received the receipt of the check registry. If you have, please raise your hand. Thank you. We're going to kind of switch the order a little bit on, going to do a couple of comments. With the mayor's comments, a couple of important items today and some recognitions, and we're going to do that now. The proclamation is going to be read by our city clerk.
Whereas Shoichiro Toyota, the second generation leader of Japanese auto giant Toyota, died on February 14, 2023 at the age of 97. And whereas Mr. Toyota was president of Toyota Motor Corporation when the company opened its Georgetown Toyota Motor Manufacturing Plant in 1988. And whereas Mr. Toyota took over Toyota in the 1950s and within 3 decades brought in assembly line techniques and quality control standards that became the industry pacesetter. And whereas Mr. Toyota reinforced a devotion to detail that remains ingrained in Toyota corporate culture. And whereas under Mr. Toyota's leadership, Toyota grew its presence worldwide to join the top ranks of global car brands by the late 1980s. And whereas Mr. Toyota served as honorary chairman of Toyota at the time of his death, and whereas in 2007, Mr. Toyota was inducted into the U.S. Automotive Hall of Fame, and whereas guided by Mr. Toyota's leadership, Toyota has become a highly respected global brand and an organization that brought about positive change within the automotive sector, both in Kentucky and throughout the world. And whereas Scott County, Kentucky, and the city of Georgetown, Kentucky honor the legacy and bonds of friendship that have been built throughout a decades-long relationship that has benefited so many communities and families within our community. Now, therefore, let it be known that City of Georgetown Mayor Bernie Jenkins and Scott County Judge Executive Joe Pat Covington do hereby honor and praise Shoichiro Toyota for a dedicated lifetime of leadership and service.
Thank you. At this time, we want to give a motion for executive order approving the board appointment, Friends of the Park, Ms. Sonia Wilkins Brandt. May I have a motion to?
Second.
The motion is made, properly second. Are there questions? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say likewise. At this time, we're going to recognize from the Georgetown Fire Department promotions. Captain Chris Morrison and Captain Cody Jackson. Chief Thompson.
Yes, sir. Mayor, council, we want to thank you all for this opportunity to come out. These are special occasions, and we want to make sure that you all in the community knows who the future leaders of our department are. So at this time, I'd like to have Captain Jackson please come up here. His wife Alexa is going to pin him. Right up front. Guess I could open these up. Got some technical delays here, sorry. And once you get promoted, the helmet shield's just for recognition on the fire ground. It changes color to red, so congratulations, sir. Captain Chris Morrison, will you please come up here? His wife Carol is going to pin him. Both of these are fine men. I look forward to their careers and what they do for Georgetown. Thank you all.
At this time, recognition of Georgetown Police Department promotion, Assistant Chief Josh Nash.
Captain Nash being promoted to Assistant Chief. I've watched him grow and progress through the department. He's a great leader, a great friend. I'm sure he's going to do a great job to help me along the way. So I know the police department's in good hands. And tonight, his wife, Stephanie, is here to pin him.
And congratulations to all of them that got promoted. At this time, we'll get a couple of mayor comments. Today had a conversation with Tim from Republic and talking about some of the issues that we'll still seem to be having. And he has assured me that there are issues will be dealt with. It's one thing that we talked about on the phone is making sure the public is well educated of what they can do to help with trash pickup and so on. He was telling me about the app, and I said, there's a lot of people don't use the app, but the app will come online for actually tracking sometime, he said, in the fall. They want to make sure that everything is working with that. But we will have a monthly call, he and I, and we go over some of the concerns, and that we'll continue to give them a update report anytime we have issues. We're going to send those issues to him directly, and he will be able to log those and actually deal with those in the individual manner. Also, on the video, we're planning to have our special call meeting, which is next Monday, down at City Hall. We are working to come up with a way so it will be cost saving to us. We have equipment down at City Hall, and we're going to try with our new tech people to actually get on board and make it where it's easier for us and more convenient for us to have meetings going forward. But we'll keep you abreast of that at this time. Sure.
Can't tell if this is on. Okay. So the meeting that he referenced is the work session, the council work session to cover the two topics of proposed Fire Station 4 and the City Hall project and where those numbers are and whether the council has interest in that project. So that's the work session on Monday, the 6th, that the mayor's referring to. And as he mentioned, our existing technology at City Hall hasn't been used since pre-pandemic. So it needs a good freshening up. But Lori and Tracy have connected with the contractor who manages that equipment. So we're going to hopefully spruce that up this week and have it up and ready to go at the very least to be able to record and then post the video of the work session after the fact.
What time was that going to be on Monday?
It's 5 p.m. on Monday, March 6th. Yep. It's 5 because we've got those two topics and we wanted ample time for both. There will be engineers and architects presenting. So just wanted to provide enough time for both subject matters.
Thank you.
And I'm hopeful that we get a lot of good information information on both of these important topics. Okay, we're going to move forward now with public comments. I want to remind you that you have 4 minutes to state what you want to say. Please be respectful of those 4 minutes, and please give us your name when speaking to the mic, and we will let you follow on with that. At this time, Virginia Teague.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Virginia Teague. My question has to do with what we're doing with the water bill. And apparently my question is probably going to be directed at Chase. The original version of 5.1C, which is what we're looking at, assumed 3 years at 17%, followed by 3 years at 11. That's been modified now to 3 at 17 and 3 at 6. How will that reduction affect your capability to fund capital work and deferred maintenance via the cash flow? And the second question is, how much of your budget is allocated yearly for that? And if it's less than 10% of your gross revenue, how do you keep this from surfacing again in 5 years? Since a lot of the problems that we're running into have to do with there was never money set aside for those capital improvements. So are we doing it now built into this? And going from 11 to 6, how's that going to impact those numbers? Thank you.
Howard Testerman.
If you have other people that want to deal with the water, I didn't realize. Okay. Mayor, City Council. My name's Howard Testerman. I live over at Harmony Ridge. I'm the one that left all the pictures. Miss Tackett, you're missing, I think, one. So this goes back. I was here before the City Council. It'll be 3 years August. And we were talking about the flooding back behind my house and stuff. And during that conversation, it was brought up too about the fence line that runs down through there and it being maintained, the grass cut, trees cut out of the fence line. And at that time, the city attorney said he would take care of it. Well, to date, it's not taken care of. So I let a year basically go by, made a few phone calls. I was told by code enforcement they would go and look at it. Last year, I'd had enough because there's hemlock growing along that fence line. And I was putting up a fence for my dogs and got into it. And my whole left arm was covered in blisters from it. So I started calling code enforcement again. Every time I called, I got a different excuse. It was, well, I'm not sure if the developer has the right to do anything on that fence line. Well, I own on my side of the fence. He has control of the other side of the fence. If I go to the other side of the fence, I'm trespassing basically without permission. But it's not my job to clear out the trees and stuff there. One of the pictures is of a tree, and if you'll look, those limbs have grown all the way through the fence, and now there's big holes in that fence. The power company came and cut that tree out once. It had grown up so bad, and now it's grown up again. I would like to see Mr. Anderson fix the fence where it's damaged and clear all the brush out along that fence line. They did, at one point, they told me that they were going to take care of it. What they did was they used a bobcat with a bush hog on the front of it, did all the level areas that they could down to the silt fence, and that's where it stopped. They didn't address along the actual fence. And if you'll see in those pictures, you'll see some of the weeds are almost head high, not counting all the trees. And I tried to get a picture of going on down the fence line down, and you can see other trees down through there. But right behind my house and the neighbor at 253 is probably the worst out of all of it. And I know there's people have complained on Facebook down on Sunny's Circle about the same problem, trees, because they contacted the apartment complex there, and they said, ain't our problem. We don't have nothing to do with it. So hopefully, by me having to come here tonight, I've taken off work. I've spent the money to get you all pictures and stuff. I'm serious about this, and I'd like to see something to be done, and code enforcement quit passing the buck. You know, when I've talked to them, that was one of the excuses, was that there was an easement there and he probably didn't have the right to do anything on that easement. Well, I've got an easement in my yard too, and I mow my grass. You know, I put a building up, but when I put the building up, I made sure it was movable. So if they ever did come through there, I could move the building out of the way. So I've done my part. I just like somebody else to do their part on that. And it's getting worse. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask our city attorney a question on? Can we look into this and maybe try to get back with us maybe by the next council meeting?
Yeah, I can get his contact
With-
information and I'll
Okay.
talk to code enforcement as well. So, sir, if you could, if you don't mind to give me your address before you leave.
Sure, sure. That was one of the excuses that code enforcement gave me, was that there wasn't any money in the budget for the city to go in there and do it. Well, the city shouldn't have to. That's an ongoing development, and the developer needs to do it. It shouldn't have nothing to do with the city except for the city to enforce the code. And I asked the code enforcement about issuing a citation, and they told me that it wasn't, that it would be faster going the other route of just going and asking. Well, we're a year now, and nothing's been done. So I don't know how not issuing a citation is not faster.
Sir, is the developer, the Mr. Anderson you referred to?
Dennis Anderson.
Okay.
Yeah, it's Emerson Farms, the development over on the 465 past there.
Emerson, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, she will get that for you. Thank you. Caitlin Tudor.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I actually have two separate issues that I wanted to bring to light tonight. The first one is my husband and I are both small business owners here in town, and everybody knows as a small business owner, you face challenges every direction you turn. But it was recently brought to my attention that business in general supposedly is not allowed to use this library for various purposes, unless it's something specifically used for community purposes or nonprofit purposes. It is secondhand information, but it was a reliable source to me that was given that information from somebody here at the library. So I wanted to kind of ask that be looked into, because I do networking business stuff up in Northern Kentucky at public libraries all the time. And as long as you do the right channels to secure a room, you're pretty much able to use the facilities as long as it's not illegal, pretty much. So I would love for that to be looked at here, because that doesn't really jive with what a community library should be about. The second thing is, my business and nonprofit goes hand in hand with adoption, and it has recently been brought to my attention that a safe haven box is coming to Georgetown, but there really hasn't been any information about that. And I would love to get additional information and find out what the channels for use are, what the channels for, I hate to use the term chain of command, but until I know and understand what's going on, I'll use that terminology. But I would really appreciate getting additional information about the safe haven box. And that's all I have.
Mayor, can I
Isn't
respond
that
to that?
already installed?
Yeah, that is, I think, that's Chief Thompson. You can talk with him on that. I believe he already got it installed by the fire department and the main office downtown.
I think though she was talking about how's it communicated to the community. So
Chief, you want?
Thank you.
Jim Long. Oh,
Did you want me to? Ms. Tudor, the baby box is, it was a partnership between Not Alone Pregnancy and the city of Georgetown. Not Alone's actually covering all expenses for it. It's in the process of being installed currently. It's, as far as the work itself of the installing of the box, it's almost completed. And they're reworking with the alarm panel to make sure that when a baby is placed in the box, that everybody's notified. The reason it's put into a firehouse, EMS quarters, is because it is 24/7, 365 people are there. Once we do, if someone does drop off a child, that's when we would just, at that point, we go through social services and stuff just to make sure, but it will be cared for immediately with EMS and fire.
A lease agreement with Safe Haven Baby Boxes. So under that agreement, it provides the channels and it provides the requirements as far as inspecting the alarm, monitoring, and the statute dictates that it be at a firehouse or some other permanently monitored location. So we've followed the channels provided in the statute and worked with that company. So I've got that information. If you want to reach out to me, I'd be glad to share it with you.
thank you. Jim Long.
Good evening, Mayor, members of City Council. My name is Jim Long, and for 28 years, I was water treatment supervisor for Georgetown Municipal Water and Sewer Service. And I'm here tonight to ask you to approve the rate study. Now, I know this is a hot button issue. I've been coming to City Council meetings since November 28th and then also to the workshop. I've listened to pros and cons. especially financial. People are saying that it's a hardship, especially people on Social Security. That's near and dear to my heart because I'm on Social Security now. And my wife, who's a retired teacher from Georgetown Middle School, she just collecting her teacher pension. As Mayor Jenkins can tell you, that public school teachers in Kentucky cannot collect Social Security. So I have to count pennies right now. So this rate increase will impact me. I'm looking at the bigger picture. To me, the bigger picture is public health. My rhetorical question is, how do you put a price tag on public health? Why are we in this predicament right now? It's because we're the fastest growing community in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. People come here for our quality of life, our schools, proximity to the highways, and it's straining our infrastructure. That includes drinking water and wastewater. At my former water treatment plant, that is basically, it's maxed out right now. We're just barely making demand, but we have a system there where we can buy water from Frankfurt and Kentucky American. Wastewater plant number 1 is getting toward the max point, but that has no place for the sewage to go. It can't go either number 2 or number 3. So therefore, it has to be built. But what price? Again, what price do you put on public health? So again, I'm asking you tonight, besides your elected official duties, to also be stewards of the environment and also public health, and vote yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who needs to come up and make comment, who has not had an opportunity to sign? All right. We're now going to go over some council committee reports, but first I want to bring up Chief Allgood, and he's going to talk a little bit about some special issues that he needs to deal with. Chief Allgood?
Thank you, Mayor. I know some of you on the council are aware. I don't know if all of you are aware or not, but last week I talked to an officer who has been with the city going on 15 years, and he told me he planned to resign. He's going to another law enforcement agency here in the county, and the only reason he said that he is leaving is pay. He's leaving for an $11,000 raise plus CLEF. That's the benefit we receive, so that would be $15,000. This officer is not easy to replace. What he did is kind of specialized. He helped not only us with internet, computers, phones, whatever, anything like that. You could call that officer. He also helped the fire department, EMS, county fire. So he's very valuable. And it's just wanted to bring that to your attention. I know it's on your radar, but as I've said before, I've talked to some of you all, what I'm scared of is this starting the domino effect. Ms. Hambrick, talked about it last time we were here. We are between $10,000 and $13,000 short with our starting pay compared to other agencies that are similar to us right around. And I'm afraid if we don't do something, I'm afraid more may leave, because we do take pride in training our officers and getting the best ones that we think that we can get a hold of, and they have that opportunity to leave after 3 years, which I certainly hope not. And then one last thing I want to leave you with, two things. In the next 2 years, there's 5 officers that are set to retire. Within the next 2 years, they're officer and various ranks. And amongst those 2 officers, I would be losing 106 years of experience between those 5. It's very hard to replace experience. Then the other thing I want to bring to your attention, since 2017, we have lost 19 officers to other agencies or the civilian world to higher paying jobs. So I just want to bring that to your attention and ask that you just do everything we can to take into consideration our pay and help us keep our officers and firefighters and everybody else here. Thank you.
Thank you. We have now other council committee reports. And I think is it Public Works?
We have not had our first meeting. It will actually be in March.
Okay,
We just got
okay.
that sent out to us last council meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, and we have already had fire, we had police, and now we're gonna do finance.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. The Finance Committee met on February 20th last week. Present was myself, Councilman Allen, Mayor Jenkins, Devin Golden, and Stacy Clark. Among the items discussed were city investments. And taking a look at these, currently the city has 24.6 million in a cash account at a rate of 0.05%. And please remember that, this cash account is that's at a current interest rate of, pre-inflationary time. So we're not drawing too much on that. We have a police evidence account that we have a little over $87,000 in. This does not draw interest. And the reason being it is a restricted fund. We have 3 CDs, one with Whitaker and 2 with Stockyards Banks, totaling over $1 million with a range of 0.1% interest to 0.3% interest. And again, these are CDs. The Stockyards Bank CDs, they mature in October. Apologize for that. And the other Whitaker Bank, I'm sorry, Devin, did we get a maturity date on the Whitaker?
I don't believe so.
Oh, okay. Okay. And in the last account that we have is for streetlights at 419,000. That draws 0.07%. And this is an account that developers, when they develop property, they pay into this plus cost of 20 plus 25%. So that we hold that for those purposes. Discussing, one of the things we discussed was of the current cash in the bank of the 24.6 million. Not only with the CDs that we have maturing, of course, those will be rolled, but we're also looking at the possibility of investing anywhere from an additional 3 to 5 million for possibly one year. And then we could even, once we set that up, once we get 6 months into it, we could maybe even possibly take some more cash, invest that at an interest rate. And that way we have them staggered every 6 months, that if the city was to need money, that we have money coming available every 6 months for any type of emergency purposes. So those, we are going to be, I think, sending out letters to banks for requests for proposals on interest rates coming up. And then we'll look at the different investment strategies that we can take to maximize the use of city money and being able to use those interest funds for other uses. And that could be a significant amount of money. Talking a little bit about our current debt balance as of the meeting time was 10.6 million. And so, going forward, as I said, we're going to look at the city investments, how best to use, invest that money and obtain the highest rate of return, so that we can again use that money to help offset some other general expenses and whatever we deem that necessary for. The next topic we discussed was the 2023-2024 budget priorities. Of course, the hottest item here is looking at COLA increases for city employees for the next year. And, I tell you, to address Chief Allgood's comments, we are going to do everything in our power to make sure that our first responders are taken care of, and we do not become a pass-through for police officers or firefighters. And what I mean by that is just not a training ground, because it's very expensive to train an officer, and we have to make sure that we provide for them in order to keep them here. The COLA increases are necessary just to keep up with the current inflation rate. You know, I know it's very tough to do that. You know, people are living on less money because of increasing costs. So we have to be aware, you know, not only for first responders, but all city employees, to make sure that they're being paid a fair salary so they can afford to live. And the last thing, as far as the budget is concerned, you know, we're fully aware, you know, not only on the revenue side, but on the expense side, we're going to be taking a really deep dive into our expenses and making sure that every expense that we have is being used in an effective manner, that we're getting the most out of that with creating high efficiency for those tax dollars. Alonzo?
We also looked at capital projects, and one of the things we talked about was Fire Station 4 on Lexus Way. We're looking at, this would be a joint venture with the EMS and sharing that building. So there'll be more coming on that just a little later, but the cost of that building, if it was standalone for fire only, would be about $10 million. But we're looking at, because it would be shared, would be about $3.2 million to the city. So we're looking at how do we share services and reduce some of that cost. With that, Fire Station 4 will come additional staffing. And we've already talked to her tonight about police staffing. Fire also has an issue and concerns with staffing, but that would probably need to be staffed at about 12 firefighters. We talked about City Hall renovation. You guys know that that's out there. I think that cost was about $9 million. So we're looking at the possibility of doing that in separate phases. Only do maybe now what's needed, maybe the exterior of the building, but we will have more discussion on that coming. We did talk about the possibility of bonding these two projects and combining those and doing one bond from it. But there will be a work session, as talked about, on March the 6th, and we'll talk about both of these projects in more detail. Talked about Lexus Way and Connector Road. We've got some roads that need some service. Well, I think we're going to talk about that. The RAISE grant, we'll talk about how to fund that through the RAISE grant. I believe that's on the docket tonight to talk more deeper about. We're also looking for all departments to do some internal cost reduction. So fire department, police department have already turned in a list of things that they're working on. I got with Public Works tonight. They're going to get me a list. So as we're talking about costs to the city, we should be looking at internal cost reduction. What can we do to save cost? I've talked with Chase about it. We're looking here at City Hall. What can we do, again, just to offset some of the costs and save some money? Our future meetings, we're going to be looking at city revenue streams. We're going to be looking for shortfalls and gaps. When we see those, we're going to close them, because everybody needs to be paying their fair share to enjoy all the services that we have here in the city. I know that's kind of been talked about in the past, but any shortfalls we see, we need to address that. We are a fast-growing city, and we just need to make sure that everybody's doing their due diligence to support this city, and again, so that we can share those services. Those services go to support fire department, police, Public Works, and we cannot afford to be underfunded or understaffed in those departments. So those will be future upcoming meetings that we'll be looking at.
Thank you. At this time, item number 8, Parks and Recreation resolution accepting the Land and Water Conservation Fund grant for Ed Davis Park playground improvement. This was a grant that we applied for, which is a sum of $250,000, and we received that. I got a letter from the governor saying that we got the money, so yay, so we're ready to go with it. So entertain a motion to accept this.
Motion.
Explain that just a little bit. So these Land and Water Conservation Fund grants, the application has to come from either city or county government. So Parks and Recreation, through their director, Kim Rice, who is over here in attendance, put that application together. She and her team did, and this is for the playground improvements at Davis Park. You'll remember that they kind of audited the equipment and determined that there were some safety concerns. This is a 50-50 match, so the city allocated its $250,000 towards the project. And the grant will fund the other $250,000, so.
Mayor, I'll make the motion.
Second.
Had motion and properly second. Are there questions?
Just a question. So the money that the city is matching is already in the budget? Is that my understanding based on what I read?
Correct.
Okay.
Any other questions? All those in favor of this motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say likewise. Motion carried. At this time, City Attorney, with the second reading of the amendment to the water and sewer rate ordinance sponsored by Connie Tackett and Todd Stone.
An ordinance amending Georgetown Code of Ordinances, Chapter 40, Articles 3 and 4 regarding sewer and water rates. Summary 1, amends Georgetown Code of Ordinances, Chapter 40, Article 3, Section 40-378 to establish a schedule of sewer rates. 2, amends Georgetown Code of Ordinances, Chapter 40, Article 4, Section 40-494 to establish a schedule of water rates. 3, provides for repeal of inconsistent laws, severability of provisions, and effective date upon passage of publication. The full text of this ordinance is available for examination in the City Clerk's Office, 100 North Court Street, Georgetown, Kentucky, 40324, or at www.georgetownky.gov. Publicly introduced and read for the first time February 13th, 2023. Publicly read the second time February 27th, 2023.
You have heard the resolution, ordinance. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion, Mayor.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Are there questions? Go ahead.
The first question I have, I talked to Chase this afternoon, but I just want to make sure it's on the record. I was asking if the 10% for the seniors 65 and older is set. You said once this is done tonight, then you will go back to the board and it should be a done deal.
That's correct. The board has not voted on it yet, but they have been presented the actual language that will go into our office policy manual. And there's been no comment on that. It's just the actual procedure and implementing the discount.
And I know I asked you about low income, people on disability. Can we still try to work on trying to figure out something maybe to?
I can say at this point, we can absolutely look into it and we will give it our effort. I cannot guarantee that we can write, I will not guarantee before you tonight and the public that we can write a rate structure based on income level. I mean, I think from a legal standpoint, I think we can justify that. I just don't know how we would do it. And I've already asked a lot of people and I don't know anywhere it's done.
Okay.
But we will.
But we can look into it. And then I know I brought up a budget like Kentucky Utilities and what I meant by that was I actually took my bill and kind of calculated it out and you just take your 12 months previous, you know, divide it and see, and maybe people can know they won't have nothing unexpected, I guess.
That's right.
They'll know what they're paying. You know, my concern is just for, you know, for the citizens and I know for you too, but I'm just.
On the KU budgeting tool, we're going to look into see if our software can do that. I can't answer yes or no tonight on that, but we will look into it and I'll report back. But as far as, I don't think currently our software has that capability. Okay. We can look into seeing if that can be added as a new code, new script that's added to our software.
Okay. And my other question is, I know the lawsuit, I mean, can't talk about it, discuss it right now, but where does that, if we do recoup, where does that money go? And can we maybe decrease the bills later on down the line if we recoup enough money or?
I think at the point that we can reach an agreement and we would know an agreement amount, if I'm using the term correctly. I'm looking at Evan. I'm also looking at our attorneys here as well. But that's something that I'll be happy to bring back to the board and to the council for you all to, as the decision makers, to guide us on how we want that money applied, whether it's rate adjustment. And I think we'll talk about this in a minute, but we're going to look at rates every year in our budget process to make sure that the rates are where they need to be. And so at that time, if we receive settlement or say let's talk about if we receive a grant that we apply for, that'll be a time that we can discuss how that's applied. It could be to a rate adjustment, whether that be a reduction. It could be to fund an unfunded project because, as Ms. Teague said, there's a number of things that we've had to push off now that we know are out there that need to be done. So there's a long list of unfunded projects at the moment. We can decide if one of those or a combination, or is it better to, if we receive some sort of funding, is it better to pay down debt? These are all things that we can bring to the board and bring to the council for your all's consideration when they happen.
Okay, Chase, one question I want to ask you is this. People were concerned about the issue of, how this happened. So could you tell us what do you have in place now to ensure that this doesn't happen again?
Absolutely. Thank you, Mayor. First is the current rate analysis that you've had your first and second reading on, that's based on. That's been performed by Brown and his team. It's been peer reviewed by an independent team within their organization that's never put eyes on it. Brown sent it to that different team and said, poke holes in this, find where I've messed up. It's also been reviewed by our bond advisor and bond counsel. So we have the consultant that's done this current analysis. We have a review, and then we have another review by different sets of eyes that have never seen the analysis. That's our first approach to the current rate analysis. As I just alluded to, the board has directed me, and they are committed that every 12 to 18 months, again, I think it'll be with the development of our annual budget, that we will have a rate consultant come back in, review, and make sure that the rate model and the current rate structure is behaving in a way that allows us to fund operations, allows us to fund those projects. Ms. Teague, I can answer about half of your question tonight, but I am going to get to it as soon as I can. But making sure that the rate structure is behaving the way it's supposed to, so problems don't snowball. As I said, bond advisor reviewed as well and has helped us with this. The next thing that we've talked about, it's been talked about a lot, is the insurance policy on for the original design engineer. So that project, I'll just say, getting a design consultant or any type of consultant, but mainly design, to be able to have insurance that could cover a construction project price tag is going to be very difficult. We're gonna pay for that. We are increasing that liability insurance we already have with projects that have been awarded since this one. Most recent was the hydraulic study that we're doing for our sanitary sewer system. We've doubled that. Or I'm sorry, we've not doubled. We've doubled that liability insurance policy, and we'll continue to look at those. All I can say is I think it's best that we approach that on a case-by-case, project-by-project basis. Some projects that are very easy to design and construct, I don't think it's in the best use of our ratepayers' funds to pay for that insurance that is not necessary. However, on very complex issues, complex projects, we absolutely need to increase that, and also possibly look at performance bonds. All things that we can look at, but I think it's on a case-by-case basis depending on the project need. And I just think that we've got to have a measured response. We don't want to go so far in the opposite direction that we are paying unnecessarily for insurance that's not necessary or performance bond, but we need to be covered in a manner that can minimize our exposure. One thing, Mayor, is you're asking for safeguards. Another thing is we conduct a outside financial audit annually, same as the city. Those are readily available to anybody that wants to review those. And the final thing is that since the award of the wastewater treatment plant project, which was done on a qualification-based selection, something that we feel is appropriate for this level of project, the complexity. Since that project, we also worked very hard and implemented a engineering pre-qualification program for all consultants that work on Georgetown municipal projects. And that's good on a 5-year term. So the next time we reevaluate that and go through that process again, the board has directed me to make our pre-qualification process that much more stringent on who we will allow to do work for us. So that's where we are. I think that's 7 items that I've mentioned there as far as safeguards to prevent this type of issue from coming up again, just related to consulting errors. But we will be exploring any additional safeguards that we can put in place as well.
Chase, I have a question. Mayor, is that all right? Okay. You say that we have a yearly audit. Did that yearly audit catch the error
No,
that the
no, ma'am.
consultant fee made?
No, ma'am.
Is that because they don't see that, or is that not part of what they would look at in an audit, or?
That's similar to the cities. It's the audit of our financial statements. It's
Gotcha.
not an audit of an engineering design or a rate.
So it wasn't included
analysis.
as part of what they would audit? Is that what you're saying?
Definitely not the engineering contract, but they're not going to get in and review our rate model. No, it's just an audit of financial statements.
Okay. So it wouldn't be included in the audit? Okay. So it really wouldn't help this kind of mistake from happening again?
No, but again, it's a safeguard against any
Other
type
things.
of, I would say, in what we learned from the public auditor is waste, fraud, and abuse is what they're looking for on the financials.
Okay.
And you're going to keep us updated, of any new additional safeguards that you put in. You will make sure that we know about all these, correct?
Yes, sir. This is where we are today.
Thank you. Are there any other?
I would like to ask, or actually make a couple of statements if I could. Gotten a lot of information since I just got back on the council 57 days ago. And this is 4th meeting. A lot of information I've gotten from other council members. Ms. Hambrick is one of them. When I was asking, where were we? When did this happen? And she explained it to me that everybody keeps contacting me talking about a tax. And I keep saying it's a rate. It's a rate increase. And I explained to them that it was drastically off. And tried to explain to them that I thought that the option that we have now, that you've worked so hard on, and the council has been involved in, and I've been at meetings with the water company with you, is so much better now for a slight, steady increase as opposed to what the options that they talked about in November, which was a drastic hike. Was it not? A drastic hike from like this day, and when it becomes effect, it's up 70-something%. That's so much of a shock and a hardship on people. And, I'm not trying to be funny here, but I'm the oldest person on the council. And I understand what it's like to have a fixed income. And I tried to relate that to them, that my heart goes out to them, but they begged me to vote no. And there is no other option. I kept explaining to them, except to take this course, which was slow and steady, and not as hurtful financially for them. So that's basically what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Are there any other? Yes, sir.
Got one question and one comment. The question is several of us here have sat through these meetings on this topic beginning last November. And I know there's been several instances where the topic of tap-on fees have occurred. And I know it was most recently brought up at our workshop that we had several weeks ago. I still believe, and again, I'm not speaking for this council, I'm only speaking for myself, that if, I don't know how this vote's going to happen here in just a few minutes, but I do believe that a tap-on fee increase needs to be part of this discussion. That's not what we're voting on tonight. I get that. I do believe a tap-on fee increase needs to happen that would mirror the increase that we're talking about tonight over the 6 years. And I understand that your board would have to have further discussion. And my hope is that we will get additional information once you and your board have time to discuss this matter, with the intent that if I believe we need to move forward, and my hope would be that we could begin that process on July 1st, which would be the beginning of the new budget year. So that's my question that I would like to see. And again, this council can say no, and I get it, but I think there needs to be further discussion on that. And that's my hope, that we will get additional information well in advance of July 1st. All right.
Can I address? I think that the answer is yes. I think that's a very reasonable goal, and I think we can have that discussion. As you said, that was something at our meeting since November that's come up over and over. I think that was probably the second most tallied comment was about increase of connection fees with this. And we did run some analysis on this. I think I mentioned it at the workshop, if I'm not mistaken, but ultimately we could, and I have it, the board has taken this up and discussed it. No action yet, but we could double our connection fees. And based on what we put into our budget and what we anticipate each year, doubling of our connection fees is actually not going to change what we're proposing in the rates tonight. Doesn't mean it doesn't need to be done, and doesn't mean it does not need to be discussed. I've heard, I think, an overwhelming majority of council members have told me, if not every single one, this has to be part of the discussion. And I think the board will make it a part of the discussion, and we can do that because we have the analysis. We know what positive impact it will make. Unfortunately, it's not great enough impact that it changes what we've done with this rate ordinance, but certainly think that we can do that sooner and have information back to you as we go through our budget development for the next fiscal year and the time frame that you discussed.
And just for clarification, for those that don't understand what I'm talking about, that would be for new development for builders and developers is what I'm talking about. And then the second part of that is that I get it that it's not part of what we're discussing tonight, but any additional revenue could be used on the back end of this increase that maybe possibly help drive down that total cost. Or it could even be used for capital, be set aside for future capital projects. So
absolutely,
just asking that, we get information back well in advance of July 1st. And then, Mayor, my statement is, I'm sorry.
No.
Okay, my statement is that, we've had these discussions have been going on since November of last year with a previous mayor and a previous council. I understand, we've got 3 new council members, and you didn't create this issue. You've inherited this issue, and I feel for each of you, and the same for you, Mayor. It's not something I don't think that any of us want to do, but I'm a realist. And any increase that we vote on, it impacts each of us. And it's not something I take lightly, but at the same time, I'm a realist. And we've looked at multiple options. We've talked and talked and talked to different people. And it is painful. It is. And the only other thing I wanted to say is we have a former council member that's no longer here that spent an enormous amount of time looking at options, looking for options. And I know some people don't like any of this that we're talking about, but I think David Lusby deserves a little bit of credit for, coming up with a different way to look at this. So I just wanted to make sure that's stated before we vote on this. Thank you.
If I could just follow up, because I haven't said it, but echo what Councilmember Showalter said. This is not what any of us wanted. It's not what I wanted. I don't want to ever be talking about rate increases, but it is the reality that we're in currently. And a previous city administration, council and mayor put in a lot of work on this, and this current council and mayor, Mayor Jenkins, unfortunately, you inherited this, and we apologize, but we appreciate that you have offered us the direction and the leadership that's required to deal with this in a manner that doesn't make the problem worse, and we really appreciate that. And I know I've met with every one of these council members multiple times, and I know that the work that the previous administration and this current administration has put into solving this problem, and it's not popular. And I'll also point out, since October, November, in addition to our multiple meetings a month, your Board of Commissioners that has worked extremely hard on this has been coming to every one of these meetings as well. And so I think that the work they've put in also, in addition to our staff and the consultants that are helping us, we didn't arrive at this. It's not it's not a popular solution, but it is the solution to an enormous problem. And it's taken all of us. It really has.
Mayor. Chase, thanks for bringing all of this to us again, and for the water board working so hard, and financial advisors and legal advisors. And I have a question and a comment as well. My question is, in part of our discussions, we were talking about if some people are not able to pay and the water gets cut off, are we going to give some leeway with reconnection fees for them? I saw in the documents that what the connection fees are, but did we land somewhere for any grace for people who have had to have their water shut off because of financial hardship?
There's nothing that's proposed as an actual change to our office policies, our office policies manual. However, as I always say, I rely on the very educated, very experienced discretion of our customer service staff, in that a customer will receive their bill, and then they've got a period to pay that. And then once that date gets there, they will get a notice the next day. Those notices go out, and with a 10 days. So that's about 30 days right there that you have. If a customer calls in, customer service staff will work with them on an extension. We really are not looking to cut anybody off till around 60 days. Again, that's not what policy says. That's what informed discretion of customer service staff. They know the customers. They know the ones that always pay their bill, and something happens. It's happened to all of us, and we're struggling for this period. They're going to work with those customers. They're going to get them in touch with relief agencies, and we're going to do everything we can to keep from doing a cutoff where that spirals and creates bigger problem. But, like I said, somebody that's never had an issue and then falls on some hard times, we're going to get 60 days and then we're going to still work with the customer. It's just all about the communication with our customer service staff, letting them know what's going on. And then we also have the customers that frankly just never pay their bill, and there's not going to be a lot of leniency there. We generally know who those are month to month, and there's a big difference in that situation A, situation B there, from the one that's always paid their bill, fallen on some hard times, needs some help. We're going to work with that customer. The one that never pays.
So I may have read the ledger wrong. Is it $1,500 to reconnect? Is that what
No,
I
ma'am.
read?
No,
What
ma'am.
is it?
It's Jeff, 35.
Okay, I was reading on a different,
That's
that's
your
why I
tap-on
was,
fee. That's
that's
your
the
for new
tap-on fee.
building.
Okay. Thank the Lord. Thought, we're all gonna need a fund. And it's a tap-on fee that I agree with Mark. We need to look at those, and I know that we're probably in unison on that. I'm not trying to speak for anybody else, but we've got to find some revenue streams. And what I like about where we're at with this is that we have looked at all angles. And we are in a better place with this financial package, even though it's going over 6 years. I do think that we have the ability to be able to look at things year 4, 5, and 6 because of doing the upfront, more of a construction loan, and not having to spend the money until we need the money. And I do thank David Lusby and others for working hard on that before they got off council. And I also like the synergy that we have now with the finance committee. You know, we're going to find other revenue streams. We're committed to that. And when we find other revenue streams, we're going to be able to have some money to hopefully make these capital projects easier to do, have some sinking funds, and get in better financial shape in the future. So we are committed to our due diligence to make sure we're in a better shape, even though this water increase is not what we want.
Are there any other questions or comment?
Mayor, real quick. Not a question, Chase. Just a comment very quickly. We've been sitting here, previous council plus this council since November, hearing all this. You have answered all our questions that we've ever asked for. The board has answered our questions. You've gone way out of your way to help this council and the previous council understand how we got here and what we have to do to get out of it. I can't say enough for what you've done. I mean, I think the board and yourself, you've been dragged through the mud, and I just want to say that, that's my personal opinion. I don't know how the council feels about it, but you all have been through, I just can't imagine. So thank you very much. Thank the board. Thank this council and the previous council for all the work that's been done on this. And Chase, I think you deserve a vacation.
Thank you.
That's on your own dime though, okay? Line it up a little bit. Okay, any more questions or comments?
Mayor, I have a comment, but it'll be after the vote.
Okay, then we ready to vote?
Yes.
Mr. Showalter.
Yes.
Mr. Stein.
Yes.
Mrs. Tackett.
Yes.
Mr. Allen.
Yes.
Mrs. Wilkins Brent.
Yes.
Mrs. Butcher Conway.
Yes.
Mrs. Hamburg.
Yes.
The motion has carried. Now, as a
Mayor, can I make
resolution
my-
approving,
I'd like to make a comment now, please. So I've had to sit with this like the rest of council and you guys as well and the public. And I've got a summary that I've kind of went through, and Mr. Long kind of hit on some of these things as he spoke earlier. We are the fastest growing city in Kentucky. Everybody knows that. And I did a little research and found that there are actually 549 cities in Kentucky, and we're number 6. We just passed Richmond. There's actually Aunton in Webster County has a population of 10. They don't have these problems, I don't think. In the year 2000, we had 18,000 citizens. In 2020, we had 37,000. 2040, we're projected to be at 55,000 citizens in Georgetown. Guys, we are growing. That's a fact. The pass rate increase, and Chase, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think it was based on a 4% growth rate, and we're not growing at that. We're growing about a 2% rate, so the revenues didn't match the projections. That's a dangerous thing to have happen when your revenues don't match your budget. So this rate increase, this study is based on a no increase, but we anticipate we're still going to grow. So as we grow and we do the analysis at the budget cycle, and we found that we have grown new customers, that's new revenue that we're not planning on in this rate study. That's how some revenue will be incurred. So we should see some of that. The litigation recovery, that will come at some point, we hope. And it may not be as much as we anticipate because there's always appeals, and it's very costly to go through litigation. We're going to continue to pursue additional funding from other sources such as grants, our state legislative body. There's opportunities there. We'll examine impact fees, connection fees, and privilege fees. That money will need to go to offset either rate increase or pay down debt. So it feels like there's a good structure in place now. GMWSS has stated that they'll continue to work with citizens who struggle. We need that. We can't have our citizens left out there with their water shut off. It does include a 10% discount for people over 65. And yes, I'm knocking on that door, so I do like that. On February 13th, I had a letter from the State Auditor of Public Accounts. They determined that no specific allegations of fraud, waste, or abuse have been reported to our office, and therefore no special examination is warranted. As such, we are writing to advise that we are declining to perform a special examination at this time. That tells me that the board and GMWSS are doing a great job. So here's how I see it. We've got a lot of growth. We've got an infrastructure that's extremely aged. We need the revenues to come in to fix our infrastructure issues. That's why we have to have this rate increase. And that's why I voted the way I did. Wastewater treatment plant number 1 will have a capacity of 9 million gallons per day. Our current system is 4.5 million gallons. So we're going to double that. We're planning for the growth. We will be known probably as the council that raised your water rates. So be it. We shouldn't be in this position. We shouldn't be sitting here tonight going through it. We are, and we're doing our due diligence as elected officials. We are not going to kick cans down the road. We're going to meet the problems. We're going to address them head on. So I thank everybody that attended. I thank everybody that voiced comments. We need to get through this. We need to work together on this and just keep moving forward. So thank you for everyone.
and again, just making sure everybody knows that we are very much committed to doing what's right by people. And sometimes people don't believe that, but this affects everybody at this table. And you know, whether I come in getting this, when I got elected on November 8th, I knew what I was dealing with. And I'm not going to shy away from it because throughout my lifetime, I made tough decisions. And I'm going to continue to do that. But let's do it in the right frame of mind that's good for people. And this council will do that. And they have the heart of the people in mind. A lot of times people don't see that, but trust me that we do know. We do hear you. And every day I go out, when I talk to people, we want to hear their concerns. And we're not kicking things down the can. Those days are over. We're going to hit things head on. If it's a problem we need to deal with, we're going to deal with it in a positive way that's going to be the best for the people of Georgetown. Okay. Now, let's see. Next is on the resolution approving the interlocal agreement for the downtown pavilion.
More fun topic than the last one, but this agreement, I know I sent it out to the council a couple weeks ago, just so you had time to digest it a little bit. As you know, interlocal agreements under the Interlocal Cooperation Act have to be approved either via resolution or ordinance by any body that is party to the agreement. So the Judge Covington has had it on his radar to get a downtown pavilion, a farmer's market pavilion essentially, but it's not going to be limited to the farmer's market. He has an estimate for the construction of it at $1 million. The county is seeking grant funding opportunities, and at this point, the agreement that is drafted only places the capital burden on the county. So the city's only financial obligation to this project is 50% of annual maintenance costs. So you'll see in your budget moving forward, assuming this passes, you'll see in your budget the projected maintenance cost per year for the pavilion. So it's a feel-good one. I know tourism is going to enjoy it. Tourism is going to take the lead on scheduling events. And if there are any questions, I can try to answer them. But it's a pretty straightforward agreement.
Is the location where the market has been?
Yes.
That's
Yep,
what I-
that back corner of the City Hall parking lot. And the county is actually, they're the ones advertising the RFP, but I'm kind of working with the county attorney on it. But we're actually going to advertise an RFP for naming rights to see if that can defray a little bit of the cost. I don't think it will. I don't know. I might be wrong. I don't know if it'll be substantial, but I know that that's one way they intend to finance the project is through a naming rights proposals process.
Do they already have a design?
Yes.
Are there any other questions? Do I need to have a motion?
Motion, Mayor.
Second?
A second.
Been properly, a motion has been made and properly second. Are there questions? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Those opposed, say likewise. The motion carried. Now for my city engineer. Okay, so city engineer, this is talking about the municipal order approving bids for the Osborne Way stormwater repair and the resolution authorizing application for the RAISE grant.
So I wanted to talk about the municipal order first. We're coming with an update on that, just to let you know what's going on. We put out a 7-day bid for the project, and it came in higher than expected. The council previously approved up to $175,000 for the project, and it came in around approximately 260,000. What we determined when we looked at the bid, we only had one bidder. Our usual stormwater company that we deal with told us they didn't feel comfortable bidding due to the nature of the area, the depth of the trench. They didn't have the proper equipment, so we received one bid, and 3 items in that bid were related strictly to road resurfacing. We, of course, had it bid out to repair the project, do the temporary surface, and then do the final surface when the asphalt plants open back up. So we have gone back and forth. When we have only one bidder, we can kind of negotiate with them and talk with them to remove 3 of the items, the unit price bid items that are related to the road resurfacing. That gets the stormwater repair portion of the project and temporary surface down to about 160-some thousand. It was 90-some thousand that we were taking out. That brings it within what you all gave us permission to go ahead and proceed with. Now, we have not given them a notice to proceed yet because we wanted to update council. With that, we are pursuing a couple of options. Number one, the council, we just sent out bids for our annual asphalt construction and materials. And at the next meeting, council will be approving those unit price contracts. So we, the city, can do the final resurfacing under those unit price contracts once they are accepted and approved by council. Number two, our municipal road aid funds. We did get word from the state that we can use municipal road aid funds to do the final surfacing. But additionally, each year when we get our allocation from the state municipal road aid program, they keep 3% and they set it aside in an emergency fund. So we are going to ask council to approve an application to submit this project for the emergency fund, and it's an 80-20 split. So we're pursuing ways to get the final resurfacing done outside of this bid. So we didn't have a final contract because the contractor didn't let us know until about 3:00 today that they were okay with us removing the final surfacing from the project. So just wanted to update you, and as long as you all don't have any, I guess, dissent on it, we will go ahead and I think give them the notice to proceed on the stormwater repair and the temporary surface under the municipal order that you approved at the last meeting that set that at $175,000. Just knowing the only piece that's not included is the final resurfacing of the road, and we're pursuing other options for that. So just want, if anybody has any questions, let us know. If you have any engineering questions, Eddie will answer them. But since this was mostly about the bid and the fact that we only got one bid and kind of working through those numbers, that's why I wanted to update you.
Question for Eddie. Talk about the complexity of this project.
Yeah, that's a good question. It's a large diameter pipe. It's a 48-inch diameter pipe, and it's under the road, and it's buried with about 15 feet of cover on top of it. So it's a very deep pipe and large diameter, and that presents a lot of problems safely getting men down in the trench and digging it out. And it needs a lot of special equipment, trench boxes and special excavation equipment that a lot of road contractors don't really have. A lot of pipeline contractors don't have. So I think that made some contractors a little nervous about the nature of the work. And also it was they used HDPE pipe, a plastic pipe under that much cover, and which is, we think that's why we had the failure. We're going to be using concrete pipe this time. So to make it. Is that okay? We done? Thanks, Stacy.
You can stay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stacy. And Devin too. Thank you for all your help on this. The second item, Mayor, is the resolution for the RAISE grant. This is for Old Oxford Road and for Lexus Way Extended and Connector Road. We've applied for the last 5 years for the same grant. Unfortunately, we haven't received it. I know that you're going to be working on some new strategies to maybe up our chances of getting the grants in the future, and that's great. But we ran up on they moved the deadline back. The deadlines before were at the end of April, and they moved it back to actually tomorrow. And so we had to scramble around and get the application updated for this year. We already had the baseline work done. We just had to bring it up to the current standards. And you're also, I know, working with Joe Pat Covington on the arrangement. It's a city-county split on the project. So I know you're going to be working on that as well. Thank you for that. So I ask for y'all's approval to submit the RAISE grant application for this year. Same project.
So moved.
I'll
Okay,
second.
you got a motion? Are there a second?
Yes.
Are there any questions?
Yes. Will you be able to meet the deadline tomorrow?
Yes, it's electronic submittal.
Okay.
We already have all the documentation. I just have to upload it. But we were waiting until you all gave me approval to do it. Yeah, it's an electronic submittal. Yeah.
And Ed and I talked earlier, and we really want to make sure we go ahead and do this. You know, we up our chances of getting ahead of this and try to, you know, we may get it and we may not, but we want to at least make the effort out there that we're at least trying to get this.
Yes, sir.
What is the award date timing?
They usually make a determination in the summer. That may have changed also this year. I can find out more on that and get back with you.
So we've had a motion and we had properly second. We had questions. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say likewise. Motion carried.
Thank you all. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, Stacy, you're back up again. And this is the second reading of the budget amendment ordinance sponsored by Greg Hampton and Alonzo Allen.
Nice, go ahead and read. Yep.
It's amending the annual budget ordinance for fiscal year July 1, 2022 through June 30, 2023. Summary, general fund. Prior year revenues are increased by $485,042.25. Property tax revenues are increased by $100,000. Occupational license fee revenue is increased by $500,000. Intergovernmental revenues are increased by $10,766. General government expenses are increased by $20,610.28. City clerk expenses are increased by $10,728.90. City council expenses are increased by $3,254.55. Building inspection expenses are increased by $14,561.23. Police expenses are increased by $592,629.07. Fire expenses are increased by $205,122. Code enforcement expenses are increased by $6,970.95. Public works expenses are increased by $202,301.03. Transfers to other funds are increased by $39,630.25. 911 dispatch fund. Intergovernmental revenues are increased by $30,390. Dispatch expenses are increased by $60,780. Grant fund. Local grant revenue is increased by $25,000. State grant revenue is increased by $185,477.93. Federal grant revenue is increased by $204,202. Police expenses are increased by $276,549.93. Fire expenses are increased by $29,100. Community service expenses are increased by $109,000. ARPA fund. Federal grant revenue is increased by $122,393.75. Transfers from other funds are increased by $8,887.25. Fire expenses are increased by $131,281. Cemetery fund. Intergovernmental revenues are increased by $3,493. Transfers from other funds are increased by $3,493. Cemetery expenses are increased by $6,986. Medical self-insurance fund. Transfers from other funds are increased by $495,511. Medical plan expenses are increased by $495,511. Capital projects fund. Transfer from other funds are increased by $27,250. Capital expenses are increased by $27,250. All ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict with this ordinance are hereby repealed. This ordinance shall take effect after its passage and publication according to law. The full text of this ordinance is available for examination in the city clerk's office, 100 North Court Street, Georgetown, Kentucky, 40324, or at www.georgetownky.gov. Publicly introduced and read for the first time February 13th, 2023. Publicly read the second time February 27th, 2023.
Is there a motion?
Motion, Mayor.
Are there a second?
Second.
Motion has been made, properly a second. Vote.
Mrs. Hambrick.
Yes.
Mrs. Butcher Conway.
Yes.
Mrs. Wilkins Brown.
Yes.
Mr. Allen.
Yes.
Mr. Hampton.
Yes.
Mr. Showalter.
Yes.
Mr. Stone.
Yes.
Mrs. Tackett.
Yes.
All right.
All right, the motion carried. Next is the quarterly financial update.
Yes. I mentioned a little bit about this when we had our discussion of the budget amendment at the end of January, but I want to apologize. The copier and I were not getting along, so Tracy has emailed you copies of the quarterly financial report. Usually I bring you hard copies to the meeting. If you have your computers, you might be able to access your email and see those. If you need hard copies, let me know and I'll try to get them to you later, but they should be in your email. So what we do with this quarterly financial update is I typically go through our 5 largest revenue categories and let you know how they're performing through the end of, so for this, through the end of the December 31st, 2022 quarter. For payroll tax collections, and I've gone ahead and updated these budget numbers based on what was just approved in the ordinance that you just did. So our budget or projection for payroll taxes was 15.25 million. Currently, through the month of December, we have collected $8,169,813. That is 54% of our budget, so that is good. And we're $1,016,000 ahead of where we were at this time last year. And that includes 720,000. I'm sorry. These numbers are exclusive of the 720,000 incentive that we pay. We pay 120,000 a month for the Kentucky Jobs Retention Act incentive that we have. So that information is in the middle of the page, which allows you to see what our payroll tax revenue would look like if we didn't have that incentive, but we do. The next category that we look at is net profits. We budgeted $2.2 million. Our current collections through December are $1,710,698. So while this shows that we're currently at 78% of our budget, every time we talk about net profits, I have to talk about this. If you look at this report, you'll see in June of each year, it's a negative number. And what happens is at June 30th, the Revenue Commission goes through their audit and their auditors send me a list of all of the companies that have credits on their net profit tax returns at the end of June. Those credits carry forward to future tax periods until when or if they owe tax, and then they can apply those credits to the tax they owe. At any point, they could ask us to write a check for that amount that is owed to them, but they haven't done that. And for the last several years, we have carried about a $1.3 million credit that is owed back to taxpayers at June 30th. So what will happen is when we get to June 2023, I'll get those numbers from the Revenue Commission audit, and most likely we'll still have, unless I'm told otherwise, we'll still have about a $1.3 million credit. So whatever our revenue numbers are, just know at the end of the year, if we collect 4.3 million, at the end of the year, our audit will show a 1.3 million credit owed, and our actual revenue will show 3 million. And as you can see, most of our revenue comes in April and May when tax returns are typically due. So if you have any questions, just let me know. And of course, that is our revenue category that's probably the hardest to predict with net profits. Yes.
The mayor, Mrs. Hambrick and the mayor and I were talking earlier today about the net profits.
Mm-hmm.
Do you get a breakdown of how many on the revenue that's showing that you've got here?
Mm-hmm.
Do you get I guess you get a breakdown of how many businesses that have paid into that net profits?
There is some confidential information that
Okay.
I do have access to, but it's another certain people who sign disclosures that have access to the information, but I do receive.
But is it
backup.
possible just to get a number with, not looking for a name,
Yeah,
but a total number?
I can certainly ask Scott. I think as long as we're not disclosing any individual
Okay.
taxpayers' information, I think we could certainly give a number of businesses
That
that are paying into our net profits.
that have paid into it just this FY year that we're in?
Yes.
Okay, yeah,
Yes.
not looking for a name, just a total
Yes.
number.
Yes, a number of businesses. I don't see why we couldn't do that.
Okay.
As long as we're aggregating that information to a high enough level that you can't pick out a single taxpayer, we can do that. The next one is property tax collections. Through December, we have collected $2,238,559, and with the budget amendment we just approved, our budget was $2,230,000. So we have collected our property taxes fully, and then of course there will still be some that come in throughout the spring as well. Our alcoholic beverage regulatory fees for the first 2 quarters, we have collected $783,746. We budgeted $1,464,711, and that's 54% of our budget. And we're running about $44,000 ahead of last year. So, and again, we use the alcoholic beverage regulatory fee to fund about 19% of our police department's salaries and benefits. There's a small portion allocated for the city clerk's office because she is the ABC clerk and monitors all of that. But that is how our alcoholic beverage fees are used. And you'll also receive in your email a detailed line-by-line revenue and expense report that if you have any questions.
Hey,
feel
Stacy?
free. Yes.
Looking at the quarterly, October through December fiscal 22 was 381,840, and fiscal 23, it jumped all the way up to 429,000. Any indication of why it's increased so much?
I'll have to look on that. I record these based on the timing of when they come in. So I say, okay, this 3 months is receipts for this quarter. This 3 months is receipts for this quarter. I'll have to go look. I don't know if you remember any large ones off. Do we have any new establishments or anything that would? Okay. I will look into it because I do have that detail, obviously, based on individual customer. So.
Thank you, Stacy.
I'll let you all know. I'll email everybody with a response on that one. Any other questions?
Did you go over insurance premium tax?
I think I skipped that page. Thank you, Connie. I'm sorry. All right, insurance premiums. We budgeted $5.9 million for insurance premium tax. We have collected $3,155,325 for the first 2 quarters. That is 53% of our budget, which is about $188,000 ahead of where we were last year. Thank you, Connie. Any other questions?
All right. So,
Well, when I met with you a couple of weeks ago and I asked you to kind of give like a president does, the State of the Union address, and they often say the State of the Union is strong, and you mentioned that you feel like based on the revenues that are coming in and being ahead, that the state of our city economy is
Yes,
strong.
absolutely. Barring any unforeseen circumstances, in the future. Yes, I do believe our revenues are trending strong. We're at least the same or a little bit ahead of where we were last year in our major revenue categories. And of course, net profits and payroll taxes are always the two, payroll taxes specifically, that we look to kind of see how the strength of our economy is doing. And if our employers are doing well and able to hire and pay their staff, then we know our local economy is doing well.
any other comments or questions? I don't think we need a motion today. I think we all got that done.
No.
Okay, let's move on to,
The revenue forecasting
Yep.
project. Also in your email, you will have the revenue forecasting project. And this is just to let you know what that is. It's not mandatory. You don't have to do it, but there are 2 things. You'll have a spreadsheet that has 4 to 5 years of actual revenue history plus the current year budget. And then you'll have a column where you can project not just our major revenue categories, but a lot of them, a lot of our different funds. And then included with that is a page that has a lot of information about the revenues. If there's anything you need to know, a little bit of history. I think it'd be great, especially since we have a few new council members. It's a great educational exercise to learn about our revenue sources and what makes them fluctuate. So I appreciate it if you would complete that exercise and return it by I believe the March 27th council meeting. And we'll present the results at the March 27th council meeting, as long as you can get it back to me by noon that day. So you've got a month, but call me if you have any questions or want me to go through it with you. I'm happy to set up a time and go through it with you if you want me to. All right. I'm staying up here for Tim, so when you get to the next one.
Yep.
Okay.
This is
Yeah.
the fire department
Yeah, I'm doing this
municipal
one too.
order approving the renewal of contracts for mowing and abatement.
Yes. So our code enforcement contracts with a few vendors each year to perform mowing, abatement, such as boarding up windows, different things. Our public works employees do as many of the abatements within city limits as they can. But if there's anything they can't get to, we use these contractors. Additionally, code enforcement is an interlocal agreement, so they do the administration of code enforcement out in the county and for Stamping Ground and Sadieville. So these contractors go out into the county to perform all abatements because we don't send our public works employees out into the county. We passed this, I believe this will be the second renewal of these contracts. When we bid it out, we did it with the option to renew for 2 individual 1-year periods. So this would be the second renewal. And 2 of the contractors have agreed to renew at the same price as before. So no increase in prices. And for our new council members especially, we always want to be full disclosure. These contractors are employees of the city. However, we had an open, fair bid process. Typically, we have about 3 contractors respond. These 2 employees have outside businesses outside of their employment with the city, so we contract with their business. But what we do with these bids is all the contractors respond, and then we take the low price from the bids and ask all contractors. So it's a rotating list. Every contractor that responds to the bid can be selected if they're willing to agree to the low bid price. So it's always a fair, open process, but just we wanted to be full transparency so you know that.
Do we need a motion?
Motion, Mayor.
Second, Mayor.
We have a motion and second. Are there questions? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say likewise.
Thank you all.
Next is the human resources, and we're the municipal order approving update in the employee handbook.
Everybody. I think I'm a little taller than the last presenter. Morgan Patterson, I'm the Director of Municipal Law for the Kentucky League of Cities. So I'm here to present a little bit about the changes and the updates in the personnel policy for the city of Georgetown. Just to give you all background, especially some of the newer members, the city of Georgetown contracted with Kentucky League of Cities to work on the personnel policy with them. And as you're insured from the Kentucky League of Cities, we provide this service at probably below a quarter, but at least a quarter of the cost of what it would cost the city if you were to bid that on the open market. And in addition, which would not be possible if you were to bid this on the open market, for the next 4 years after the personnel policy is approved, we do provide legal updates. The benefit of having an outside consultant service, in particular Kentucky League of Cities, to provide this service is that it is dang near impossible to keep up with all of the legal changes that occur in a personnel policy over the years. That's all some of my staff do. We're dedicated to personnel, municipal law issues, and we don't have to manage your personnel, unlike your HR department. So when state law changes, when federal law changes, when state case law changes the application of your policy, we will provide that update to your HR director, who, by the way, is wonderful to work with. So just to kind of give you a little bit of background about why we provided this. And it is, again, a benefit of your insurance. So just to kind of summarize your policy a little bit, some of the first things you'll see if you look at the policy is a clear description for employees about the form of government. You are a mayor-council form of government, which is a strict separation of powers. The mayor is the manager of all city employees. You also have the option of a city administrator in your ordinances, which the city administrator is able to do some of the executive duties, but ultimately the mayor is responsible for hiring, firing, discipline, and management and supervision of all city employees by state law. The council, y'all have the role of approving any of the policies that impact the budget, establishing the classification and compensation plan, and the like. So that information, we include that in all the personnel policies, just so that employees, especially the newer employees, know and have that information available to them. We found that it's very beneficial. So just to point out some of the highlights, and I'll answer any questions y'all have. And if I am not capable of answering those questions, particularly if they pertain to how the personnel policy will apply, then Megan has agreed to sit next to me and bail me out. Nothing really changes with hiring. One of the things that we do recommend is that instead of having a strict requirement that any vacancies be posted, because of the costs to all of our cities, we always put may in there. Sometimes if it's an internal posting in particular, the city knows who they're going to hire, and there's no use in spending that money to have to go through the job postings and the like. And it's also really not fair to applicants who may think that they have a shot at a job when they don't. So the city is not required by state law to advertise and to post every single position. So there is some flexibility in there, but it does clarify the process for internal and external submissions, which again is important because all the city employees know that when they have the opportunity and when they are actively competing for a position, they know what they have to do. So they know they have to fill out an application. They know, the entire process. There are some intentional changes for recruitment and retention. I know the city of Georgetown, like every other city in the Commonwealth of Kentucky, is struggling with recruiting and retaining employees. We can't pay people unlimited sums of money to bring them into work. So there are some other options that KLC recommended and that Megan and I talked about that we recommended for the council to approve. One is some changes in how vacation and sick leave accrue. Anymore, I think it's more, well, I know it is, I don't think. It's more common practice to allow employees from day one to begin to take sick leave, vacation time, and personal time. The reason is, well, me personally, I'm the director of municipal law. I have several employees. I don't let any sick employees come to work. We don't want sick employees coming in, and we don't want them to feel like they have to come in because they don't have time, or they're going to have to take that leave. Another thing is we're trying to recruit and retain the employees we have, and asking people to work for a full year without taking any time off before they can use vacation or before they can use any other time. It's just not something that encourages a happy, workforce or positive morale. So instead, the way it would operate is vacation and sick leave can be kind of front loaded. And that's the way we operate at KLC. So for example, when I first came on to KLC almost 6 years ago, I received all my vacation and my sick leave up front. And then if I had left before I actually accrued that sick leave, so if I got 1 day a month and then I left, even though I'd used that 1 day a month, then I would have owed KLC money, for the value of that time. So that's how that is calculated for the sick and the vacation leave. So it is front loaded as it's accrued, but if someone were to leave, then they would owe that money back to the city. There's also an increase in the sick leave donation. And what that is the city has a sick leave donation policy where people can donate sick leave. They have to have a certain amount of sick leave, and the employee has to have worked here for a period of time. That was increased from 60 to 90 days for a medical condition that would qualify under the Family Medical Leave Act. Again, if somebody has a qualifying condition under FMLA, it's rare. It may take 90 days. So it was just a recognition that someone may have experienced that type of illness. A huge recruiting tool is parental leave. And this would be available for anyone who is becoming a parent or who is going to adopt a child. And that is parental leave for 2 weeks, 2 paid weeks, in addition to vacation and sick leave. We've seen that as a very effective tool. The more you read about the current workforce, the more you hear that what they value is time with their family. And it doesn't matter. It's not the days of my mama or my parents, back when they said only maternity leave, it's both parents. And that's been particularly with the law enforcement community and with any type of first responder, that's been a huge recruiting tool to offer that type of parental leave. So the recommendation is 2 weeks, and that again also applies for adoption. The other type of leave policy is critical incident leave for police and fire. That was a statutory change in Kentucky law. The city of Georgetown has opted to pay those 2 days of critical incident leave, and that's available to a first responder that experiences a qualifying critical incident, and it's to take care of their mental health. We're becoming more understanding, more aware of the mental health impact of critical incidents, and this gives people an opportunity to heal and to process these situations. We updated some of the federal laws, the Americans with Disabilities Act, FMLA, Title VII, which includes harassment, discrimination, in reference to some of the changes from the Equal Opportunity Employment Commission and Supreme Court cases and Sixth Circuit cases. We also updated the city's certified drug-free workplace, and I put in here a note just to make sure that I wanted to mention the governor's executive order. The governor's executive order does not in any way, shape, or form alter the certified drug-free workplace or alter the fact that THC is a drug that is tested in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. The governor's executive order was a prospective pardon for people who are caught with 8 ounces or less of marijuana. It would be a prospective pardon and a recurring pardon. It has no impact on drug testing. And we've had that question when some employees who didn't know any better showed up with a note and said, hey, look, I can smoke pot now. That's not the case. So certified drug-free workplace still includes THC testing. It doesn't matter if that was from the incidental ingestion through CBD, cannabidiol oil, and we've seen a lot of that as well. But I wanted to make sure as legislative body and the mayor that I'm updating y'all that this is a significant problem from an education perspective with our employees, and it's something that you may see more and you may hear about in the community. Cannabidiol has absolutely been a problem for cities because we've had cities who have lost CDL workers and some safety sensitive employees because that information wasn't out there. So that is clearly delineated in the policy. And we do encourage and we offer that certified drug-free workplace training. And it's also on the back page of our insurance page. There are also changes to reporting, timekeeping, and discipline. Nothing big, just a clarification. From the reporting perspective, the city of Georgetown has moved to an electronic reporting, which is great. I can tell you in state government, when we went from the paper copies to electronic reporting, it's phenomenal. I can even do it on my phone now. I'm 50 years old, never thought I'd see that. And just a clarification that there's no strict disciplinary ladder, that if someone unfortunately runs afoul and commits a serious offense, then they're not required to get a warning. You know, there's not a strict disciplinary ladder, that the offense will be based upon, the discipline will be based upon the offense. So, we did remove mediation services. The Kentucky League of Cities has not offered mediation services in over a decade, and that was removed. So I don't know if y'all have any other questions or if I've just worn you down, but. The grievance policy. We also removed there was a formalized grievance policy. And at KLC's recommendation, we removed the formal grievance policy for several reasons. The first one being that it's just not effective and it erodes the at-will employment. The reason we say it's not effective is because it's circuitous. In a mayor council form of government, grievances have to stay within the mayor's office. They cannot go outside of the mayor's office. That would be a violation of state law. And it's basically any grievance process would just be kind of circular. Instead, what we have seen be more effective is an open door policy. So a clarification and additional training will be provided to employees to clarify that, hey, you know, if your supervisor is the one you have an issue with, you can talk to the Human Resources Department, you can talk to legal, you can talk to another supervisor. But that open door policy encourages the employee to approach supervisors to work within their supervisory chain. And it also places the responsibility on the supervisors, because they shouldn't be able to shirk that responsibility by telling people, oh, just file a grievance. That responsibility lies with your supervisor. So it's a recognition of encouraging that communication with employees and supervisors. And it doesn't mean that they can't talk, you know, they can't elevate a problem to the mayor or through HR or through the legal department, but it doesn't stop that communication, and it's just a more effective mechanism.
Okay, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and properly second. Other questions? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say likewise. Motion carried.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council.
Next is the second reading of the personnel ordinance, adding police officer to PD and adjusting the schedule of compensation, sponsored by Alonzo Allen and Greg Hampton.
111 of the Code of Ordinances to add one police officer and adjusting the schedule of compensation pay grade 11 maximum value. Summary 1, amend section 2-111 subsection C of the Code of Ordinances to add one police officer. 2, adjust the schedule of compensation to increase the pay grade 11 maximum to $117,000. 3, provides for repeal of inconsistent ordinances, severability of provisions, and an effective date upon passage and publication. The full text of this ordinance is available for examination in the City Clerk's Office, 100 North Court Street, Georgetown, Kentucky, 40324, or at www.georgetownky.gov. Introduced and publicly read the first time February 13, 2023. Publicly read the second time February 27, 2023.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second, Mayor.
We have a motion and properly second. Are there questions? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say likewise.
Mayor, you got to call the roll for an ordinance.
Oh, I'm sorry, my bad. Well, let's call the roll then.
Mrs. Hambrick.
Yes.
Mrs. Butcher Conway.
Yes.
Mrs. Wilkins Brown.
Yes.
Mr. Allen.
Yes.
Mrs. Tackett.
Yes.
Mr. Stone.
Yes.
Mr. Showalter.
Yes.
Mr. Hampton.
Yes.
Now we pass. Next is the first reading of the personnel orders adding part-time maintenance coordinator for the fire department, sponsored by Mark Showalter and Sonia Wilkins Brand.
An ordinance amending section 2-111 of the Code of Ordinances to add the position of part-time maintenance coordinator to the fire department. Summary. 1, amend section 2-111 subsection C of the Code of Ordinances to add 1 part-time maintenance coordinator to the fire department. 2, provides for repeal of inconsistent ordinances, severability of provisions, and an effective date upon passage and publication. The full text of the ordinance is available for examination in the city clerk's office, 100 North Court Street, Georgetown, Kentucky, 40324, or at www.georgetownky.gov. Introduced and publicly read for the first time February 27th, 2023.
Okay, now ready to move to number 14. And
Before you do that, real quick, I just wanted to give you a reminder that I put the cost of living increase information on each of your seats. Obviously, we get this every year from the Department of Local Government. They establish the numbers for us, and we just apply that automatically unless the council were to decide that they wanted to repeal the ordinance that has us adjusted automatically. Just wanted to bring your attention that it's on your seat, and if you don't have any more questions for me, I will stop.
thank you. All right, now with the police department, the municipal order approving the purchase of rifles, the LEPP grant.
Okay. We're tag teaming this one. As I believe we previously approved a purchase of the tasers through the LEPP grant, and that program, that grant that you accepted also included the purchase, I believe, of some rifles and ammunition. So this is approving the purchase of the rifles. And this grant, I believe, did require a match, but we are doing that through our buyback program where officers have the opportunity to purchase their duty weapon, and that revenue that will be used as the match. So with that, the grant covers, I believe, fully the purchase of the rifles.
Mayor?
Yes, we need a motion.
I'll second.
Motion is made, properly second. Are there questions? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say likewise. Motion carried.
Thank you all.
Okay, council comments. All right, Ms. Tackett, we'll start with you on the end.
You know what, Mayor? I'm good. Good council meeting tonight. Thank you.
Mr. Allen.
I'm glad that we have finally put some into the water rates in terms of just doing the approval of it and moving forward with that now. So we need to continue to look to offset cost at all corners. That's just not with the water rates, but that's with all departments. Money is going to be monitored pretty closely. Thank you.
Mr. Hampton.
Great meeting tonight. We have gotten over, I think, the hill, so we have to look forward. As part of the finance committee, I think we've got to look for new revenue streams, and also we've got to cut costs and make sure that we provide a good living for our city employees. On another positive note, I just want to, the last council meeting, I was sort of harsh with Republic in my statements, but I just want to share something that I witnessed this past week, or as last week actually. Republic, they were picking up trash can, and he emptied the trash and he set it down, and there was some loose trash and some boxes along the street, and he actually got out of the truck, picked those up and threw them in, and got in his truck, went down a few houses, and the trash can, the trash and recycling were sitting a little too close together. and he knocked over the recycling. Again, he got out of the truck and he picked this can up. So, we're making progress. So I just wanted to put that out there and, seeing good things. So, thank you.
Ms. Happert.
Good meeting. The first 2 years I was on council, there wasn't one work session. If there was, I missed it. And we're going to have work sessions, and I think they're a good thing, and the public is invited. And I think that this is part of a fresh wind of trying to be as information giving as possible. So thank you for initiating those, and I think it's a very positive direction. Black History Month was really, really effective this year. It is every year, but if you got a chance to hear Yukari Figs, who is a Scott County champion, her speech at Georgetown College was just amazing. And the work that she does at Toyota she's every bit as successful there as she was as a basketball champion. And then we had here in the library, the George Washington Carver with Mr. Embry. Was also a really good event. So thanks to Robbie Barber and others, the NAACP and whoever is organizing those did a great job. And congratulations to the captains of the firefighters and also Assistant Chief Nash. That's exciting. And I just want to say that we are concerned, and I appreciate all your comments, Chief Allgood, about the need to look and take a deep dive into what we can do for the salaries of our first responders and our police officers, because safety is what I consider one of my first responsibilities on council. So I appreciate your words.
Mr. Stone.
Yes, thank you, sir. You did it. Sitting here now, can safely say I did walk in your shoes, Darren, and know what they're going through. When I retired, I was making $40,000 a year. Aaron Wilson walked in I retired on Friday. Aaron walked in on Monday. He was making $40,000 a year starting out. So it's come a long way, but it still needs to be done more. And Georgetown for years has been a training ground, and that needs to stop. It's as long as I can remember, and that's mid-90s. So that definitely needs to stop. Alonzo mentioned it earlier, with revenue streams. Two of the biggest things that we're facing, one with Chase is and GMWSS is the connection fees, but we also need to look at the impact fees. We need to really get that ball rolling now. With wastewater treatment plant 1 in the process, we don't have a whole lot of new construction coming in because that has stopped. So, but once that gets rolling, we need to have that already in place and it can be up and running and going. Want to thank Chase, his board, David Lusby for all the hard work that they did. David, before he left council, on putting the plan together that we approved tonight. Hopefully it won't ever come to that again. We need to, as it was stated, slow and steady rises instead of having to shotgun blast it all at once. So thank you. That's all I got.
Ms. Brett.
Well, Ms. Hambrick actually said pretty much everything I wanted to say about the promotions, the Black History Program. And with the Black History Program, I want to also say Tina Lilly at the Ed Davis Center. There was a children's program that was really nice Friday. And that was sponsored with the NAACP and the parks and
Parks,
yeah,
right.
yeah, but that was really nice. And I hope we get to have more programs and things like that. I'm glad this night is over in a sense, but I just want the community, the citizens to know that although we've passed the rate increase and everything, once we start getting these bills, you have a problem or you feel like the water company is not working with you, feel free to call me. I'll be glad to research it and get it with Chase and see what's going on while you're not getting the help. But because I'm very much trying to help my citizens out. This is why I took office, because I'm a public servant and I don't want anyone to have any stress or anything without getting that help. That's all I have.
Ms. Conway.
Well, same lines. You just hope and pray people will understand about our water rates and that we did the best we could do with the situation we were given. Thank you.
Mr. Showalter.
And again, I don't say this lightly. We took a tough vote tonight because it impacts all of us. It's not just people here or people at home. It affects each one of us. And to this council, it's one tough vote that we've made, but there's going to be other tough ones to come. Chief Allgood, Chief Thompson, we cannot, under any circumstance, lower our standards. We cannot. If we want to attract the best, we have to make sure our compensation is where it needs to be. And we're going to have to address it. We can't turn the other cheek and hope the problem's going to go away. It's not. We've got to address it. And I know that we will. I feel confident that this council and this mayor will address very issues, Chief Allgood, that you discussed earlier tonight. As a good friend of mine always says, and it's easy for me to say this because I'm not a police officer and I'm not a firefighter out there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. This is a marathon. It's not a sprint. We've got work to do. And I think each one of us realizes that we have to act. We're going to have to. So we hear you. I know all of us do. We hear you. And I think I feel confident that you have our commitment that we're going to act. So thank you.
If there's no other business to be presented to this council, this meeting is adjourned.